welcome to another episode of Wedflics. I'm Julia Braime, I'm your host and the editor and founder of top UK wedding blog Brides Up North and the editor of Unveiled magazine, your bridal glossy. Today on the show, I'm chatting to a long-standing friend of mine in the wedding industry and an Unveiled Network member, Nicola of Silver Sixpence in Her Shoe. Now, I've known Nicola for years, and I've been proud to see her business, which makes beautiful bridal accessories and gifts, go from strength to strength. Enough from me, let's meet her.
Okay, we are rolling. Hi Nicola, and welcome to the Wedflics show. It's lovely to have you.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me.
So, guessing from what we can see in the background for those of us watching on YouTube is your studio. Are we coming to you direct from your studio?
Yes, my home and my studio.
Oh, fantastic.
I have a studio, the front room of my house is currently my studio.
Very nice. Well, it's just got your branding, and knowing your brand as I do, that studio has got your branding just written all over it, and everything I can see in the background there. For anyone who's listening to this as an audio when you're out walking or in the car, if you know we go in cars these days, what I can see in the background of Nicola's scene here is she's got lots of gorgeous veils and headpieces and accessories. There's a whole wall of ribbon, scissors, dried flowers, mirrors. I can see part of a model at one side of her.
my freaky model head, Annabelle, that freaks
Annabelle.
Everyone out.
I must admit, Annabelle might freak me out a little bit.
I won't turn her face around to you because that's the freaky bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want her in my house, but it just looks like how you'd expect a designer's studio to look. And Nicola is a designer through and through. But tell you what, let's let Nicola introduce yourself, Nicola, and tell us a little bit about your business, which is Silver Sixpence in Her Shoe.
Okay, yeah, sure. I am a wedding accessories designer. I design and hand make everything myself. In times when it's easy, I sometimes have freelancers working sewing for me, which is really good and helpful. But in general, particularly anything that's bespoke, I'm making all of that myself. So I go from veils, birdcage veils, and pretty well known for, I'd say. Headpieces, statement headbands, which are really popular at the moment. Do bridesmaids as well. So I can actually do any member of the wedding party in that respect, really. So, but quite often, a bride will want something similar for her bridesmaids, just in miniature version as well. So I do loads of bespoke work as well around that area. And then the kind of second aspect to what I do is almost more like a gifting side of it, but it still is within accessories. So handmade garters, lucky wedding horseshoes, which you can see some of hanging up. They have just, they fly for me. Like they're just, I think because I use real ones, and I do literally scrub horse out of them myself with a jet wash.
What a pleasure to your business.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm doing it and I'll say to my kids or Ed, I can't actually believe that as part of my job, I'm out here on a Saturday jet washing 100 skanky horseshoes. But yeah, I get them to look nice in the end. And I think I like to bring traditions. I think what really inspires me is kind of like that old style wedding tradition being revived in a more modern way. I just don't think it has to be twee or naff. It can be made to look modern and feel like a lovely keepsake, and that's what I hope to do with that gifting side of it, which has expanded for me quite a lot of late.
So how did it all begin then? How did you start out on the Silver Sixpence in Her Shoe journey? What's your background before?
It's a total cliche like everyone else. I was getting married and I was actually I did a fashion design degree, and then I went in, and I did during that, I actually wanted to be a buyer, not a designer, a high street buyer. The more commercial stuff has always interested me, wearable commercial stuff. So that was what I did. I went to London, I started as a buyer's clerk, and I moved throughout the ranks up to senior buyer level. So I worked various brands, River Island, Coast, and ASOS was where I ended up. We then took about a year and a half, 2 years off to go traveling after we got engaged. And when I came back, I actually went into design manager side of things for a jersey wear supplier that I'd been working with before previously. And it wasn't really for me. And then we just had quite a lot of life changes go on. Like, we got married, I got pregnant, and Ed's job moved him from London up to Manchester, and I'd already resigned from my post anyway as design manager. And when we got married, I'd made my own birdcage veil and garter and so on, and people were like, wow. I mean, I'd kind of been thinking about getting out of that whole industry anyway when we were traveling, but nothing had really come to me, and I hadn't really ever thought I could work for myself.
Yeah.
And then everything just kind of started happening. I was like, I'm going to be a mum, I'm going to want to be around for my kids. And I mean, it's not that simple by any means. I thought it was, I thought it was at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mum and have my own small little design studio at home. It's really not that simple at all. No. I mean, I genuinely thought I'd do that with no childcare. I don't know what I was thinking.
It's probably worse than having an employed job.
I would agree with that. I think it is. I think because you're harder on yourself as well for a start. But yeah, I mean, you know, I've talked about this before. I think, yeah, it's really is harder because there's no boundaries, is there? Anyway, I'm going for a tangent, but yeah. So we moved to Manchester. I was pregnant. I kind of started it up, and I'd done a first small collection and a little bit of a product shoot via people I knew in London who were photographers and stuff. And I got a website built. And I think once my eldest child, Dougie, once he got to about 10, 11 months, I did start to do like some childcare for him. And it started to roll a bit from there. And I started to do wedding fairs, came across people like yourself. You know, my first wedding fair, I was doing like vintagey wedding fairs to start off with. And they were a really big thing at the time because my brand was really quite vintage inspired at the time, just how my own wedding had been. And so I've kind of gone from that. I mean, this is now 12. I'm 12 years married this year, so it's coming up for 12 years.
Yeah, so the whole vintage thing really kicked off around about 2008, 9, 10.
Yeah, that's it.
2012, 13-ish, really kind of like had a real, it was very popular, and, you know, front and center, vintage weddings were the thing. And then as soon as it came about, it just disappeared overnight, didn't it?
I know, but it was too big, I think. Yeah. It's one of those trends that went, and then weirdly, a lot of things have gone quite minimal, haven't they, in that respect? Well, they've had to now anyway. But
you know what I think is really interesting is that although your brand had roots in that look, you've very much kind of stayed true to your original aesthetic. And despite the vintage thing not being super, super trendy, you've adapted what you do just ever so slightly, not as much as other brands have, and still been super successful. And I think that really speaks to the quality of your pieces and the craftsmanship and how they're made.
Thank you. That actually is really what I aspire to do with it. And I mean, I didn't know what I was aspiring to do with it when I first started out. And I don't think I even, you know, with baby brain and everything, I don't think I was even necessarily thinking, I certainly wasn't thinking that professionally or business plan orientated or anything about, you know, where this would go. It was almost a sort of thing of, I'm going to try this for a while and see. But now I do think in a more structured way about it. And I can see what it's like. Some brands do completely switch and go, right, I've got to be super minimal now. It's just not for me. I'm not either of them as a person, to be honest with you. I'm not like, you know, you can see how I don't wear things in my hair weirdly ever. I just feel really uncomfortable with it, apart from on my wedding day. I don't wear any of my headbands or anything particularly that I make. It's just not who I am. But
about you saying that, I can totally resonate with that, because I obviously absolutely love and appreciate bridal style. As a stylist, you know, I can either work the gamut from very minimal to like absolutely tool explosion, more is more. As an individual, I like block color, I like plain. You know, I would dress head to toe in black with a pair of like cool black trainers. That's my vibe.
Yeah, I'm not girly at all. I'm really not.
And isn't it interesting that, though, I think a lot of creators and creatives are like this, in that it's more your art than your look.
Yeah.
And that's why it works for you, though, Nicola, because it is your art and you put everything into it, and you're very, very authentic in the way that you produce your pieces and work with your brides. And then there's not like a sticking point between the way you create and what the bride wants to buy. I think it all flows very, very naturally. So
I think so. And I would always be one to, so for example, at the moment, there was definitely a little dip in birdcage veils for a while, but they are actually coming back through again in a different way. And I've, adapted to that. And because veils came back with a vengeance as well, proper veils. But with that kind of whole cool tiara thing that's come through, statement crowns, not headbands. Basically, I'm a sewer. I'm a textile person. That's my background. I work with fabrics. I like beading. If I could go and do an embroidery degree now, I would be happy as, like, I would love to do that. Just for myself. Yeah, I'd love to. But I'm not, I could change my brand. I could say, right, okay, statement tiaras, where you need to learn about jewelry and wiring and everything. That's really on trend. So I've got to jump on that. I don't have the time with 2 kids because I've got enough to do with my brand as it is. But it's not who I design for. It's not what my brand is about. And that not everybody wants that just because it's on trend.
I don't think that's the case at all. I think blogs, magazines, we're all, well, we have to do it. It's our job to put in front of our readers. But if I were advising a friend or my daughters when they get to marrying age, or if they want to get married or whatever, you have to dress yourself on your wedding day in a way that feels real to you. And
totally agree.
Elevates it all. So if you're a girly girl who loves, pretty beading and things, and go that way. If you're super fashion forward, go that way. Just elevate.
Yeah.
And
that's it. You can't make yourself into something else just because it's your wedding day. Follow a particular trend. I mean, there's loads of brides that pick a dress that they're really surprised they've picked, right? You know that. It's like, quite often I'll have brides, they'll come and they might have messaged me before and said, I haven't quite chosen my dress, but these are my options. Or when they get here, they're like, I'm so surprised with what I went with. And I'm like, well, I hear that all the time. I was surprised with what I went with. It's like, it is a common theme with brides. But I would never push my product. I'm not just saying, so I'd never push my product onto a bride that I didn't think was comfortable in it, that it was right for her. You have to, most people, if they come to me for a birdcage veil, they know they want a birdcage veil. I'm not going to try and convince someone into it, I think I am very artisan and niche in that respect. And I'm really happy to keep it that way. For how I am at the moment, for how I want my brand to be, I'm really happy to keep it that way.
Yeah, I do think, you can almost be influenced by trends, but kind of leave them at the door of your wedding, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, a little touch of it is sometimes nice. Like I always say, a nod to, I think it's a term from back in the day when I was in buying. We would always be talking about a nod towards something. I was just nod towards that friend, because the design team would be going mental with these crazy designs that we'd be like, that is never selling. And I think actually that is in me a lot. I was trained that way for 10 years. So 10, 12 years. So I sort of think to myself all the time, it's a nice press piece, or now I'd be thinking it's a nice blog piece, it's a nice shoot piece, ain't gonna sell,
It's really interesting. And it's interesting how, as professionals, you come through this, as professionals putting things out in front of the readers or the viewers, whoever's going to be watching this, and wondering about how they're going to style their own wedding. I think I've learned over the years that I'm trying to stay away from those very sort of leading statement pieces now in my editorial work. I'm trying to make it more accessible for the brides and grooms who are picking up the magazine to incorporate the style they see in our pages into their actual day. That's my aim for how I'm taking our mag forward, because it's always been about that statement piece. But I think I love, for example, when I see you at a wedding show, what am I like at your table? I'm all over it. I'm picking things up. In fact, I'm extremely annoying host because I'm destroying the display.
I'm like putting things out and you're picking them up and moving them. I don't say anything.
No, you don't, but I know that I do it. And I always say, oh, I'm sorry. And then you say, oh, it's really not fine. I'm really being annoying here. But it's because I'm so excited to see what the real pieces are that, brides and their bridesmaids and their whoever's wearing them love. And I think that's why you've been so popular. So, okay, let's talk about all that styling that goes behind it. What's your signature style, Nicola?
It's birdcage veils, I think, probably. Like, I used to get called the birdcage lady when I first started, which made me sound like some kind of crazy old bag lady, or like an old lady with like pram and cats in it or something. But yeah, birdcage veils, I think I'm still probably, people kind of go, oh, go to her, that's what she does. My signature style is quite rustic, quite romantic. I always kind of go off the back of a little bit like what we've been talking about with trends, minimalism and stuff. I think that most women want to, and men obviously, but I tend to not style men. Most women just want to look nice and quite pretty on their wedding day, and my stuff is pretty, so it's not for everyone in that respect, and quite often it's not for editorials and shoots and stuff because it is quite pretty. And like I make no apologies for that, it's my style.
That's what I'm talking about, like getting the real into the editorials. I think it's very important, and I'm very like this about it at the minute.
Well, we the thing is, as designers, we want statement pieces in editorials. Otherwise, on the page, people don't go, wow, like what
if it's done in a not lazy way. So it has to be done in a not lazy way, and that's our job as stylists.
It's hard though, isn't it?
It is, but it's a challenge, and that's what I like. But so I would say that your pieces are very much heirloom pieces, would be the word I would use.
Yes, that's a good word as well. I mean, I get loads of obviously I produce my ranges and stuff, but if I'm honest with my headwear, I reckon I do more bespoke than range for brides anyway, at least in that there will be a tweak. It's not that often that someone will buy a birdcage veil that's reasonably expensive, got quite a lot of work in it, from my range without saying, could I have it in this colour? Could you tweak the brooches? And actually, there might be vintage brooches on it anyway, which means every single piece is unique. And I'm glad you said that. I really hope they are heirloom pieces, because with my accessories, that's how I design them as well. Like, I want someone to keep their wedding horseshoe and pass it on, or to hang it in their house afterwards as a reminder. And their garter, I want them to pass it to their daughter, I get brides that come who are bespoke brides that come for a consultation, because I always do consultations in my studio with people, and that's part of my service. It's no charge or anything for that. And I get people that come with pieces of jewellery from their family, from grandmas who can or can't be at the wedding. I had someone bring her dad's christening shawl once, her mum's veil, and some brooches from her mum-in-law. She wanted it all very balanced, all the parents, to be involved. And she was having two weddings. So she had a birdcage veil for her, quite a glamorous one for her wedding in Tuscany that she was having. And she put like the mother-in-law's brooches into that and stuff. And we used tiny little daisy flowers from her mum's original 70s veil onto the birdcage.
I love this.
And then we used the tulle from her mum's 70s veil to make a tiny little blusher veil for her civil ceremony at the town hall. And we worked out that the christening shawl was amazing, but it was her dad's christening shawl, but it had belonged to his mother. So in many ways it's falling apart. And we took that and we made, it's not something I normally do, but we made like a ring pillow from it.
Oh, beautiful.
And then she had all her bridesmaids accessories done from the motifs from her mum's veil as well, and I hand beaded those, and so that was like an extreme example of it. But I get quite a lot of that sort of thing, which I love.
You enjoy the challenge of that side of your work about how to incorporate the old into the new.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess you can tell from my business name as well that's kind of, you know, my friend actually is totally responsible for my business name, one of my oldest friends.
Business name. So let's hear the story.
It's just that I wanted it to be around the something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue rhyme. And I kept kind of, you know, going, you know, I was like, can't have something blue, can I? And, you know, I was just kind of like going around it from the products I've designed. I was like, that feels like something I want to have in it. How could I incorporate that in? And nothing sounded right. And I asked my friend, who was my ex-flatmate as well, we'd not long moved out from living with her. And she was like, well, what about the next bit of it? A silver sixpence in her shoe. And I hadn't even really heard that bit of the rhyme before, to be honest. Terrible. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want. Sometimes I regret it because it's a total mouthful and it's a nightmare for like domain names and Instagram handles and stuff. But in general, I'm like, it's memorable, so I'm happy, and I've always stuck with it for that reason.
Do you know what? It's also something that people know how to spell. So if you know, trust me, there are worse URLs than that. I think that's people know how to pop it in, and also you've been around long enough that you're very Googleable, so they find you from it. And do you use a sixpence?
Yes, I do. Well, I do little gift sets now that have sixpences in them, and a little rhyme card with the rhyme on, a horseshoe and a garter. It's a nice like wedding morning box that quite a lot of like mums will buy for their daughters, and it's really nice. And I do sell little lucky sixpences as gifts as well, that are in like little lace pouches that I make. And then I also what you're supposed to do with that actually is like sew it inside your wedding dress.
Right, okay.
You're supposed to have it on you, so you could sew it into your wedding dress, or if you've got like a cool pocketed wedding dress, you could have it. I know people do put them in there. You can't kind of have it sliding around in your shoe, but like Charlotte Mills has them on the inside of her shoes, isn't she? They're lovely.
Yeah, so Charlotte, for anyone wondering who Charlotte Mills is, she's not a bride. She's a designer of beautiful bridal footwear, and
it's lovely.
Silver sixpence kind of into the instep part of the sole of every shoe. It's a really nice touch. So what was the story behind the silver sixpence? Like, why are they lucky? Do you know?
Sixpences have always been lucky sixpences. It was given to a bride on her wedding day to bring her luck. I do not know why you're supposed to put it in your shoe. But when you Google that stuff,
you right?
Say again.
Probably just having it on you, like you said.
Yeah, but there will be some weird old wives' tale about the shoe as well. It's like, should you wear your garter on your left or your right leg? And different countries have. Yeah, no, there's things around that. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if I ever design them leg specific, it's left leg. But
I know that I've made so many luck faux pas when I was a bride. We're still going all right 10 years later, but you know. Yeah.
I didn't even wear my garter because you could see it through my dress, because I had quite a fine dress, so I ended up popping it in my bag.
I think I had a garter, but I'm not sure what leg I wore it on. And then I didn't have a sixpence.
I didn't have a sixpence. I didn't have a horseshoe.
Right, and I didn't have anything blue. But I had something old and something new, so we'll just go with that. So
I had some little tiny blue pearls in my flowers that were on my headpiece attached to my birdcage, and they're quite, you know, they were really pale blue, and it's touches like that I like.
I do. So, I think it's fun if you can to bring these things in, because it's part of like the heritage of a wedding, and it's part of the ridiculous excitement and frippery that comes with it. And I always say to like my brides and grooms, like, enjoy every moment of the planning as well as the day itself. All these, little foibles and quirks are part of what makes it such a cool time. So definitely.
Yeah, and when it's over, there's such a gaping hole in your life.
Oh no, we don't need that chat, Nicola. No.
then you just start a wedding business. That's what people do.
Or you know, babies. I think.
Yeah, babies or wedding business. I did both.
Or have some sort of career crisis, which actually with the wedding business thing. How about your inspiration? What inspires you in your designs?
I think probably when I first began, and it still does now, it's actually my materials that I've got. Because, and by that I don't literally just mean fabric. I mean, you know, my beads, my sequins, my brooches, this and the other. Because I've got, I mean, I can't show you them because they're actually in another room in a cupboard. I've managed to not have them in here now, which is good. But I have boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff that I'm terrible magpie. I'm not a hoarder, so if it's rubbish, I get rid of it. But I'm just such a magpie with things that if I see them along the way and I think, oh, that's gonna work for someone, I end up getting it. And I would say that very initially, I had a lot of stuff and I was collecting a lot of stuff. That was quite inspirational for me, and still now I go back to my materials a lot and go, what do I want to use? Sustainability is becoming quite important to me as well. It should be to everyone. It's becoming more and more and more important to me, and I kind of make myself promises like, I don't want to buy any new stuff. I want to use what I've got. I feel like I'm quite a sustainable brand anyway, in that I use a lot of vintage components.
Absolutely.
So, but there's certain things like tools and birds' cages and stuff, I know that they're not sustainably produced, and I'm always looking for, you can buy vintage veiling, of course, which I do, but not everybody wants that. It might not be right for everybody's look. But I'm always looking for ways to try and improve that as well. That stuff's quite tough. But in terms of all the beading bits and bobs, there's ways that you can make that more sustainable. So I'm always going back to my materials and thinking, how could I use that again? And with that naturally comes inspiration, I think. And obviously trends as well, like trends that are coming through do influence you. It's as simple as that. You know, I would be silly to not going down the road of statement hairbands. I'm a sewer. I
love a statement hairband. I don't have any myself because
I'll have to send you one.
Talking about being like plain old stylists, you know, but I think like when we're set free from lockdown, because we are filming this during lockdown 3 we're on now, so we're filming it during lockdown 3. When we're set free and we're able to have like events and, you know, go to the races and stuff like that, I am coming your way for a statement hairband. I think you look really good in this sort of thing. You know, I totally agree in theory, and then when I get one on, because you know I have been known to try things on shoots. whoa! But I think that's because I have this thing where I don't like to be, believe it or not, the centre of attention. You know, amongst friends, you go a bit different, and yeah, I think those put you like you are wowing the crowd with a statement headband. But
they can be, and actually, like people are asking them for them higher and bigger now as well. It's really, I've had a lot of inquiries about this. It's nice, and like bespoke inquiries are starting to come through. I think people are thinking that maybe towards the end of this year.
Oh, absolutely. I think we are going to see some real progress sort of April onwards in terms of our industry. No one hold me to that, but I really think as long as we've, you know, without going down that route, as long as we've protected the vulnerable in our society, which was the goal, making sure the NHS is available to everybody, I think we need to start opening up businesses, and you know, we want to do it safely. We need to know
absolutely
how to do it. But I think you only have to look at the survival rates amongst those who won't be vaccinated by that point, and you can see a clear path to opening. So I think that there could be some good controls there as well if people are happy to have that. I mean, it's a different day, isn't it, of course, to maybe what you thought you might have had, but there's a lot of things that have gone on that haven't been controlled, and a wedding is something that really could be. Yeah, I think so. I think this chat though will become redundant towards the end of the year. I really
That's what we want. That's what we want.
And do you know what? And
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, we're all sick of it. But it's been so difficult. But those couples who have gone ahead with the smaller weddings, you know, they had a great day. I think it's made people rethink what they want from their day, what they want
definitely.
to spend money on, what's important to them. And it shook our industry in a way that's been diabolical, but also that in the end will refresh it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've definitely thought I'm all about like moving my accessories not away from weddings by any means, but into other areas too. And obviously that's it's kind of events based still for the level of what I do, because it would be luxury. You're not going to spend the money on a headband just to, you know, slob about in at home. But I do some less, maybe if it carries on like it is. I know I find myself just spending money and being like, don't care, I'm not doing anything. What of it?
I'm almost ready to invest, to be quite honest with you, Nicola.
No, you know, I think I was saying this on one of our Zoom cafe things. I think it was.
Yeah.
I sell via Not on the High Street. I have done for probably about 8 years now. And they're very much about, they're not great for weddings. It's not like they're a real bag, you know, but my gifting is good on there, even though it's wedding gifting. And they kind of, they've said in terms of the fact that they've always been the home of thoughtful gifts, what they're finding now is that they're becoming the home of thoughtful gifts for yourself.
Yeah.
And that they're finding sales of jewellery and accessories and stuff for people buying them for themselves, not as gifts, have really gone up. So I was kind of like listening to their CEO statements and their big kind of end of year stuff that they do and that. And I was like, yeah, I can see that. And sometimes I get sales, especially on Etsy, that I think, yeah, I think that person's buying it for themselves, and a little bit of investigation they are. It's not necessarily for a wedding, especially overseas. So, you know, hoping to sort of expand into that a little bit as well, you know, with all this time that I'm going to have on my hands when my kids hopefully go back to school.
Yeah, and do you know what as well? You're not going to have much time when the weddings come back.
It's just like no one's got any time. I've had less time in lockdown than I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm with you on that one for sure.
I'm not sure how it's possible, but it's been worse.
Hasn't it? There are many things at the start of lockdown one that I wanted to achieve personally that have not been achieved, such as cleaning out my wardrobe and repainting the hallway. It's all been just on back burner whilst we've been helping our couples through it, really.
Yeah,
what's working for you then normally or now? You can tell us about both ways. If a bride comes to you and she wants to design a bespoke piece,
how does the process work? Yeah, so like I was saying before, I always like to have a consultation with people. At the minute it can't be face to face, so I have been doing Zoom ones. Actually, they've been working quite well, really, because I can try the pieces on for people and, you know, get my big fringe out of the way because it doesn't work with everything. Usually they've already got a little bit of an idea. I very rarely get someone come to me going, no idea what I want at all. They've done the research, they've got the Pinterest boards, and they've looked at my stuff, and they usually know the sort of thing they want. Trying it on and it suiting them can sometimes be a slightly different matter. But yeah, they would come to me for an appointment. Usually, I always say for bespoke, in standard times, 3 to 6 months before your wedding. You must have your dress, because it's just, be very certain, because it's otherwise no, because that's more important than your accessories for you to be certain on at that point.
I really love an accessory.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but like you need to know what you're wearing. There's no point, because you'll go and get a completely different dress and your accessory might not look right for it. I get quite a lot of brides that aren't having actual wedding dresses as well, which I love. That's kind of nice. Then they're going all out on their accessories. So they come, they'd have an appointment, it's usually about an hour. It's supposed to be about an hour, it's normally longer. We just chat through, hear all about, I like to chat through everything that's happening with the wedding, where all the things like where it's going to be and how big is it and all that sort of stuff. It gives me a sense of who that person is, and I can then help guide them with stuff. So it's quite a people-y job in that respect as well. I think you need to be comfortable talking to people about and be interested in their plans and their life.
And I think when you work alone, I get this as well. When you kind of work alone in your own office or studio or whatever, when people come to see you, you just want to talk. I mean, like,
yeah, I'm like, bah.
you know, it's not the same as chatting with your family or your friends, because they're not in what you do. It's not your industry, it's not your specialism, it's not your sort of interest point. So if get a bride and groom in front of me and I'm there for hours, you know, sort of giving them all sorts of tips and tricks and hints and making them write down website addresses and things. But
well, that's it, exactly. Normally people have sorted, you know, if they're 3 to 6 months before, everyone does it slightly differently, but they've normally got their, you know, photographer sorted, this, that, and the other. But they might be like, still haven't found a makeup artist, and I can go, oh God, I work with this person, they're all great, check them out. You know, I love being able to help people with stuff like that as well. It's just, yeah, like you say, it's just part of the nice chat with it, really. Have a cup of tea or a glass of something nice if they're not driving, and whatever, you know, just make it a nice experience in the same respect as going and trying on your wedding dress and stuff. Is a nice experience. Really happy for people to bring mums with them, bridesmaids with them. You know, 10 bridesmaids would be a bit of a struggle, but yeah, I'm really happy for that as well. It kind of makes it a lovely experience. And then they would we would agree largely on a design and dates and so on then. And I like to get people's pieces ready for them, if there's time, for their hair trials and their final dress fittings. I think it's just puts everybody's mind at rest then, because most of my pieces I think are fairly flexible in terms of how you're having your hair, but if you can have it for them, why not? You know, it's going to help you make decisions. So I'll go away from the first consultation, and we'll have agreed a design and so on a time scale, and they will have left me a deposit, and then I will go and do any sourcing that's needed, any sketching that's needed, any ideas. Less sketching from me, more like mock-ups. There might be like beading designs or something like that I need to do for them. We've normally sketched out in the consultation, and I'll go and do maybe some mock-ups or something. And just these days it's like a DM on Instagram of like, what do you think of this, you know, whilst I'm actually sewing at night or whatever and watching TV, I'll be like, oh, I just sent it to her now, what do you think of this? And it's nice because you have that backwards and forwards. Like you say, we work for ourselves, so it's almost quite nice for me to get that feedback as well.
Exactly. And then, so how long then before like the hair trial, if you're aiming for them, or the dress fitting, what's your lead time essentially?
3 to 6 months, I say, for people. And the reason I would not need that in January, you know, I usually get quite a lot of consultations in January for people that are having summer weddings. Mm-hmm. And I like to do them then. If people are like saying to me, my wedding is July and August, because I'm really busy then, because that's when the majority of weddings are, and people are maybe going to want that a couple of weeks before their wedding. I like to get the consultations in early, and then I can do it earlier for them. Whereas if you came to see me in September time and you were getting married in November, December time, that's absolutely fine. I can always fit people in. I will always try to fit people in.
It's better to leave a bit of a longer time if you can, I guess.
Well, some people want it just from a point of view of paying for it and all sorts, because obviously they pay a deposit, but then when they don't pay for the balance until it's ready. Some people want to come and pick it up, other people want it posting to them, so might need to factor that in. And, you know, I think, everybody's different in terms of how they're planning their wedding. I try and work it to other people, but I always say on my website and stuff, I'll be like, it's 3 to 6 months for bespoke, really. Other stuff, I'm super quick on my horseshoes and all that sort of thing. It's like 3-day lead time maximum on that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. It's good that as well that if they want to, like, you know, I'm a very immediate shopper. So if I want, you know, something from you, I can get a gift while I'm waiting. Get
yeah. That.
Please, if you can't wait. So
anyone that buys from me always gets a nice little 20% off code for anything they need further, which is friend 20. If anyone wants to use it, they're very welcome to. Friend capital letters 20.
Tell you what, let's do the whole where can they find you. So what's your web address, Nicola?
Right, well, this is a funny one, actually. It's funny timing us doing this, because another lovely Unveiled Network member is currently doing a new website for me.
Perfect.
that was my start of lockdown project, and nearly a year later it started.
I'm so glad it's been a network member. I absolutely love that. Do you want to give them a shout out?
Yeah, it's Vicky from Content Quarter.
Oh, perfect. So,
yeah,
excellent. So what's your web address? Because this is
it is www.silversixpenceinhershoe.co.uk.
perfect. So
but at this moment I am Silver Sixpence in Her Shoe on Etsy. That my Etsy store's there. See, the easiest thing is if people go to my Instagram, because it links up to it.
Fab. So what's your Instagram?
Silver Sixpence in Her Shoe.
There you go. And okay, so what's the thing you love most about working in bridal, to finish?
I think it's the kind of positive difference that you make to someone, and like I never expected that a bride might like try on her headpiece and burst into tears and be like, oh my God, it's so beautiful, I love it, and I'm going to wear it again afterwards, because some of them you can do that with, you know. I just never expected to. When I get like nice feedback or nice reviews on Etsy and stuff, and how people describe my work, I'm like, oh my God, like
that must be so rewarding to get
yes,
those
it is.
Reviews.
I think it's the fact that you create something with your hands and your thoughts and your ideas, and yes, along with another person, but like if someone buys something from my Etsy shop and they receive it and they give me a review that's like, I love it, I loved your service, you were so helpful to me, the packaging's lovely and I tried it on and it's perfect, that just makes my day.
Well, I was going to say, do you know what, let's let everyone decide for themselves. Head over to Nicola's brand new website, to her Instagram, check it all out at Silver Sixpence in Her Shoe. Nicola, thank you so much for being an amazing guest today.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely to talk.
It has, hasn't it?
Person.
Thank you so much.